Architecture is amazing. I say it's amazing because it's an art. And the life of an architect and a student of architecture is an amazing one. One of my favorite architects in the famous book called 100 Things That I Learned in the School of Architecture says, an architect knows something about everything, but an engineer knows everything about one thing. My name is Samuel Banda and I'm a fourth year student of architecture at the National School of Architecture in Marrakech. You know, trying to define architecture is like trying to actually define beauty. Everyone has their own perception of it. The more you know about this architecture, the wider and the more detailed your definition becomes. Others will tell you it's a combination of space and form. But one definition that I love is that architecture is an art of making shelter for human beings. Okay, so architecture is an art. An art in the sense that it's all about creativity. And an art, actually I would say an art, because all architects in one or another are artists. You see, architecture is an adventure. And deciding to be an architecture student is embarking on one adventurous journey in whatever space you are in right now. In one way or another, it's as a result of someone who sat down and actually thought of defining that space you are in. Architecture is around us. And as students of architecture and architects in general, we can say architecture is all about finding solutions to problems. You see, architecture is like those TV shows you watch where you have villains each and every episode. And in architecture, we have new challenges every project. And I think that's what makes it amazing, really. You know, if there's a course where we have a lot of things going on, it's that of architecture. I mean, you're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to discover things about yourself. And you're going to grow as a person in general. I mean, when you are working on a project, you are sketching, you are learning about history, you are trying to do as much research about the project. I'll give you for example, if I'm designing a hospital, I'm asked to do a research about a hospital, I'm asked to do research about how doctors think, about how patients ought to be treated, how their facilities are to be made, and that pushes me to go far and far, and at the end of the day you acquire so much knowledge that you can talk to anyone in this world about anything. Let's say for example I'm designing a school. I'm put down in the brain of a school pupil, trying to think how they move around the school in order for me to define good spaces for them. And I think if you're an adventurous person like me, architecture is the perfect course for you. You discover that when you are in the school of architecture, you literally become good at everything. You learn to sculpture, paint, you design from houses to airports and later on to big cities. It's amazing. Like someone said, you actually become a jack of all trades. Studying architecture, like I said, will make you a well-rounded person in all areas of life. You become well acquainted with almost every topic. If you ask me if it's a good career, I would say it is. You are like me who loves adventure, and one day you wake up and you decide, I don't like buildings anymore, I don't like drawing buildings anymore. Architecture gives you a whole variety of opportunities. You can wake up and just decide, I'm not going to be designing buildings, I'm going to start designing interiors. You can wake up and say, I'm going to design furniture. You can wake up and decide you just want to become an artist. And with architecture, all these are just but few possibilities that I can mention. So, yes, architecture is a good one. And so many people have asked me, but how can I make a change with architecture? You can make a change with architecture. You see, architecture, as the world is changing, we're talking of sustainable development, we're talking about changing, making an impact. And I feel like architecture is one of the tools we can use today to make a great impact to today's world. So, unlike other schools, like other courses where you have to sit behind the desk and watch the professor as they are explaining the whole day, in the School of Architecture, it's pretty much quite the opposite, you know. Like, you spend most of your time in front of professors, discussing, presenting projects, henceforth the necessity of good results in French classes, especially on the oral. They expect nothing less than a très bien in your oral exams. You spend a lot of time presenting your ideas and defending your project. So if you are a shy person, it will be pretty tough, but you know, you'll find your way out. So why in Morocco? You know, Morocco is one of the fastest growing countries in Africa, and I think it's really doing well on the world map, to be honest. You see, it's developing really fast, and we're not talking about the infrastructure development. I feel like the country itself has invested a lot, and what a great opportunity to learn from the people who are doing it in life. You see, you get to experience the part from the class and get to practice. Other than that, I feel like Moroccan architecture has everything you need, my friend. Moroccan architecture, in the architecture itself, you find the modern part of architecture and you find the traditional Moroccan architecture. And you learn these two, and later on as an architect, it's up to you to choose your own way, with your own path, whether you're going to side with the traditional or with the modern, or you can actually combine the two. So I really feel like it offers a great opportunity for someone who is studying architecture here in Morocco. So after 6 years of your study here in Morocco, you get your master's, and it's quite a heavy paper. So back home, you are presented with quite a lot of options. You see, you can work in a private firm as an architect. You can work alongside other architects, or you can work in councils. Today, we've seen councils like Lusaka City Council, we've seen Ndola, you know, these councils are trying to replan these towns, and things are changing, you know. Yeah, we are moving too, and I feel like it's good that to be in such places so that you can be able to make an impact. You can also work in mines, you can work in the military, so there are a whole lot of things to choose from as an architect, you know. I said earlier, the course itself is 6 years, and it's offered in cities like Rabat, Marrakech, Tétouan, and Fez, and we have the newly opened Agadir and Oujda. And to be honest, I feel like the experiences from what I've gathered is quite the same. I'll speak personally for Marrakech. Here, why in the first place I chose this place? I chose this place because, come on, Marrakech is the best city. Like, you know, people here and there will try to argue, but truth still remains, Marrakech is the best city. And the school of architecture here is a small one compared to that one in Rabat, and I feel like that makes it an advantage because you get to interact with other students easily, you get to know each other, and hence becomes very easy to share ideas, and we take that advantage. And for those of you who love traveling, every year I'm presented with an opportunity to travel out of the country. You don't get that very often. Architecture is given to one person from Zambia, and that being said, you may be 100, just know the fact still remains, only one person would get it. Another thing I mentioned is how we are few and we get to interact with teachers. You see, unlike the amphis in other schools, in the School of Architecture, when we're working in studio, we're just like the maximum 17 people. And a student is known by their teacher by names, and that makes it really, really good. So you need good French results, and if you have GMD, you have an added advantage. The only disadvantage I would say about this school is that you get to spend a lot of money, especially when you are in your first year, because you get to buy a lot of instruments, and when you just think it's all over, you are told you need to buy a big computer that performs very well, so you really get to spend a lot of money, but in the end it really pays off. In the first year you have about 10 modules, and all these in general are just there to familiarize you with the architectural world, the world around you, make you see things differently. You see, after that first semester, you never see the buildings and the streets around you the same. So you have the studio where you learn to design, you have the art classes where you learn to draw. Some of you say, I don't know how to draw. Well, in the art class, you learn to draw from straight lines to complex stuff. You will learn the graphical representation, the informatics. Those of you who don't like computers, you might as well consider starting now learning Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, because those are very good foundations. You need to learn about construction. Yeah, we learn also about describing geometry, philosophy, some English in some cities, static and history of art, so that if you are going to learn about architecture, you need to know where architecture has come from. And you can't be socially awkward in the School of Architecture, because it can be a little bit tough. So be sociable.